Hi guys, welcome to the latest edition of the Simi Fakeaways. Tonight we're going to be doing mac and cheese. It's a recipe that's a favourite of the kids when they go on residentials, and a few of them asked if we could have a go at making it. So I'm going to divulge my trade secret and show you how to make my version of mac and cheese. So to do that, first things up, pasta. Get the macaroni in a pan. I'm not sure if you can see it there. Plenty of water. Get that up to the boil and get it cooking. Mine's going already. It'll take about 5 or 6 minutes to cook. And so you want it starting to happen before we start in on the sauce. Sauce itself starts with the posh name for it is a roux, which is basically the basis for most white sauces. Cheese sauce, bread sauce, all these kind of things all start with a roux. You can do the same sort of thing with corn flour. A lot of people use that, but the traditional way of making it, I would imagine it comes from France, given the name roux, is to make it with butter. So about 125 grams of butter, which is about half your stick of butter. I didn't have a stick of butter, so I'm having to use a Lurpak spreadable. And you should have about 100 grams or so of a plain flour. And what we're going to do is first of all melt the butter in the pan. And it's important to do that over a reasonably gentle heat. What you don't want to do is start to burn the butter, or it'll just give it a really unpleasant taste. So get your butter melted into the bottom of the pan. It's all melting, lovely. The other thing that I've done before I started, so I'm just melting this down, is grate my cheese. And I grated the whole block. I've put, just to show you, just going to move that off the heat for a minute because it's bubbling. I've grated a third of the cheese, keeping that to one side for the topping, and 2/3 of the cheese is going into the sauce. I don't normally divide it precisely. Those are just sort of rough measurements, but that's about the sort of measurement that I use. So what we're going to do now is keep this off the heat just for a moment. And I'm just gradually going to spoon in the flour, or tap it in. If you've got a sieve, you can use a sieve as well. That works really well. And what the important thing here in this process is you've got to stir things really, really well. So you've got to work at it, get it stirred, get any lumps that you see in that flour up against the edge of the pan, and get it so it starts to become a nice smooth paste at the bottom of your pan. Just getting rid of any lumps. Now, to be honest with you, the odd lump or two in cheese sauce for mac and cheese is probably not the end of the world, but practice makes perfect and all that. So if you can work away at just keeping this nice and smooth, it's good practice if you want to use this technique to do other things in the future. If you have fancy, for example, at Christmas, having a go at maybe making your own bread sauce to go with a turkey or whatever, if you're having a traditional Christmas lunch, it's a good plan. So once you've got that all mixed in a nice thick paste, what we're going to do is put a gentle heat back on. And we are now going to stir that until it starts to change colour. and it should start to go a little bit darker. Gentle heat, keep stirring. And what you're actually doing is the heat, the flour now mixed with the butter on the heat, you're starting to change the sort of chemical structure of the flour a little bit. Much the same way as if you bake bread, you knead it, you soak the flour in water and you knead it, and you start to create gluten strands, and it sort of changes the structure of the flour a wee bit. You're doing the same thing with this. So just 2-3 minutes of this. Just keep moving it about. If it looks burny, take it, turn the heat down, or take it off the heat for a minute. You can just lift the pan off, let the heat come out of the pan bottom. It's important not to burn it because it will taste burnt. So err on the side of pretty low heat. Just get that working. Yum, yum, yum. The other thing that this does is it takes the flouriness out of the flour. Sometimes, I don't know if you've ever made, custard from instant custard powder, and if you don't boil it for long enough, or if you do it in a microwave sometimes for speed, it tastes a bit powdery. A bit floury, and doing this, making a roux, completely gets rid of that, so you don't get any sort of floury taste to your sauce. So that's me. It's starting to just gonna pop that up a little bit. There we go. Now, before I do anything else with that, I am just going to give my pasta, a very quick check, and that's actually just about ready. So what I'm going to do now is take the butter off the heat, turn the macaroni off, pasta off, and I'm just going to put some cold water through it, and that's just going to stop the pasta from cooking. I had a friend, I grew up in Aberdeen. Sorry, I'm off camera here, I'm just working at the sink. We don't have multi-camera shots at the moment. That might come one day, you never know. I had a friend up in Aberdeen who was a chef, and he showed me that trick to rescue rice and pasta from disaster, is to just run, if they're cooked earlier than you want them and you don't want them to get all kind of sticky and mushy, just run some cold water through it, and that takes the heat out of the pasta or the rice and it stops them cooking. And it has served me well several occasions. That rescued a few romantic dinners that could have gone badly wrong. So this is changing colour. Quite nicely. Yep. Nice. So 2-3 minutes will do that, and then what we're going to do is start thinning this out with some milk. And to start with, again, I'm just going to take it off the heat. Now, top tip, slowly, especially at the start. So just a wee bit of milk, a tiny little bit of milk, and get it stirred around. If you put too much milk in at once at the start, the paste, the flour and butter paste, will sort of clump, and it's really hard to get rid of those clumps. So just a little drop at a time, and it will, the paste will absorb the milk really quickly. So you can see mine hasn't changed much at the moment. We're getting there. I don't know if you can hear in the background, but my dog Bracken is objecting to being locked out of the kitchen. She normally likes to just lie in the kitchen and watch me cook, or watch anybody cook that's in the kitchen. It's funny, usually on a Saturday or a Sunday, if I've managed to get my life organised enough, I will bake a couple of sourdough loaves to last us through the week. It's quite cool actually. I don't think we've really bought bread since the start of the first lockdown. I just keep plugging away at making them. And Bracken seems absolutely mesmerised by watching the bread rising in the oven. She just lies on the floor and stares in through the wee glass window at it. It seems to fascinate her. The magic of rising dough. She also loves the taste, so it might be as much that as anything. The anticipation of getting to taste fresh bread. Anyway, back to the roux. And we are getting there. We're about, I don't know, not quite halfway through. And I'm starting to become more like a sort of really thick custardy kind of sauce now. And you'll notice I'm still off the heat. So I am going to bring this back up to the boil in a minute or two. But I'm just cutting myself a wee bit of slack doing this, putting the milk in off the heat, because then I'm not chasing my tail, trying to keep it stirring while it's starting to boil and sort of come back up to thickness again. So the other thing that we've done as we're putting in, when you first put the milk in, you'll see it probably kind of bubbles and fizzes a bit. And now at this stage, the cold milk's taking the heat out of that butter and flour paste, and it's not actually cooking. So now all we're doing is just starting to thin it down. So now it's starting to look like a sort of cheese sauce. So at this stage, I'm going to put it back on a gentle heat and just start to get it to come up. And I'm going to keep adding that milk. I'm just going to put the whole whack in. And that's me, and I can probably put the heat back up a wee bit now. And there we go, that's all the milk in. So at this stage, until this starts to thicken up and boil, you really need to stand at the pan and keep it stirred, keep it stirring, keep it moving about. If you walk away and leave it at this point in time, it will go lumpy. So just keep it moving, just keep moving. Can't remember what film that was. I think it's Finding Nemo, wasn't it? Just keep swimming. So I learned this from my mum. My mum was a pretty good home cook. She cooked some really good food. And this is the way that she always made sauce, cheese sauce for a mac and cheese. I'm guessing it probably, I think when she was at school they probably still did one of those, all the girls did domestic science and the boys did woodwork or something like that, which is a shame because it probably means that lots of guys like my dad never really got the opportunity to learn how to do any cooking, and never really learned how to be sort of self-sufficient in quite the same way that they perhaps could have been. But my mum was a pretty good cook, so apart from odd occasions when she was unwell or something like that, she did most of the cooking for us, and pretty good it was too. But mac and cheese was a particular favourite, and she didn't do the topping that I do. That's a creation of my own. I remember her, she would occasionally put bacon on the top of it, or tomatoes, sliced tomatoes and things like that. They're really nice. I used to fight my sister for the crusty bits across the top, which was actually the origin of this recipe, because much as though I loved the whole thing, the bit I really, really liked was the crusty bit across the top. And as I got older and started to make my own macaroni cheese, I began the quest for ever more crunchy bits on top, which led me to this idea of putting mushed up crisps across the top to add extra crunch. And on the bottom of the recipe, I posted up at Christmas time, just for a laugh, I made up some mac and cheese, and we made it a Christmassy mac and cheese I got some pigs in the blanket, and I think, if I remember, I cooked them off first a wee bit and then sort of podged them into the top of the mac and cheese, and then good evening, guys, and hi guys, and welcome to our latest edition of Simmy's Fakeaway Recipes. Today we're going to be making mac and cheese at the request of some of the young people. I've made this for them a few times at various residentials and things like this, and they all seem to enjoy it, and that was the request, so that's what we're going to make. It's real comfort food, especially for this time of the year when it's kind of cold and wet, and or cold and snowy as it is today. And it's really nice just to be able to have this big sort of hearty plate of pasta. So we're going to get going. First thing you need to do is get your pasta and get it in the water and get it boiling, so that that's ready when we make the cheese sauce. So I'm just going to open the bag, spill some of it over the countertop, get that in there, just scoop this up, pop this in here. Not have enough water, so I'm just going to get some more. And we'll get that on the ring and going. There we go. Bish bash bosh. Pan lid. I think we've used a couple of different types of crisps, just according to what we could get in the shops. I usually do this with a thick cut, those sort of thick ridge cut crisps like McCoy's or sort of somebody's own brand version. That works really well. I think a few of us have got a cheese and onion crisps that we got from a Lidl, and they're not actually ridge cut, but they will taste the same. So, and obviously if you like other flavours of crisps, I mean, I was looking at the Co-op round the corner had a Aberdeen Angus steak flavoured crisp, which I actually thought might work really well with this. So in the interests of experimentation, I might have to get a packet of those and try this again sometime in the near future. Maybe after I've walked the dogs a lot to burn off the calories from this one. As you can see, on top of the crisps, I'm now just spreading the last of our cheese, and that combo there is gonna melt together and then go crusty. Nice. Right, one last thing. maybe it's been moved, so let's pretend I'm going to do some pepper over the top, because I quite like that little peppery taste. Except I can't find my wee pepper thing, so I'll have to live without it. There's actually pre-ground here, which will do. Just put a wee thought of that. That is suitably cheesy sauce. So I'm going to put mine in the oven, and I'll see you in about 10 minutes when this is all crisped up. Right, so it's had about 10-15 minutes in the oven. You probably want to do slightly less than that if you're doing it under the grill. Just keep an eye on it. Turn off this annoying beep and let's have it out of the oven. Oh, look at that, look at that. So there we go. My crispy, crunchy topping mac and cheese. Let's have a look and see how that's come out. Oh, just lovely. Yep, so still nice and runny. I'll say runny, juicy under the crispy layer, and it's nice and crispy on top. So that is just perfect. If you want it less runny, just put a little less milk in when you're making up the sauce. Right folks, enjoy. I'm going to wait to have a wee sample and see what it's like.